We are go for liftoff in T minus 30.
Hit the record button.
Gosh, that's swell.
Right, welcome to another episode of Italo's Black Dark Radio. This is Italo speaking, and we again have the artist formerly known as
JW.
JW. There you go.
Yeah.
I wanted you to say that so that you can appear. So Joshua and I,
Right.
yes, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode. This episode has been in the making for about, I want to say week and a half, but a little longer, because when you mention the Dark Triad and you mention narcissism, I'm like, check. I already know about that. Psychopathy, I'm like, yeah, I've seen some psychopathy, movies and stuff. But Machiavellianism, I'm like, Machiavelli what? And I'm like, okay, I have no idea what, I mean, I've heard a term, but like I was telling you, I never knew where that came from. I never knew that was a thing. So let tell my audience or our audience, what is Machiavellianism?
Ooh, well, at this point, it's a loaded, very much a loaded trait in modern psychology. It's really everything we've already discussed. Actually, I think the only difference is that it's more social. It's more of a, where I began. Let's start here. It's definitely manipulative, like the other two. There's an element of cunning, clever, cartoon, Looney Tunes kind of vibe, if you ask me, when it comes to it, because they drive at whatever means necessary for power, similar to the psychopath. Power, profit, and pleasure.
Right, because that's the one thing about Machiavellianism that is different than the other two, where they take pride or they enjoy seeing people suffer. Right, whereas I don't think, maybe psychopaths, but I don't know if narcissists do that.
No, and that's an interesting point that you bring up too, and I want to come back to that.
Okay.
Do you think we should discuss Niccolo Machiavelli?
Yeah. Let's begin there, because that's where the term came from. So yeah, so let's talk about him first and see how that ties all together.
Yeah, well, I will start by saying a little bit of what I've studied recently, because honestly, I have no idea about where to begin with Machiavellianism, except for the guy named Nicolai, I believe, Machiavelli. He's from the Italian Renaissance era, a long time ago, mostly on the social science side, political philosophy. And let's listen to those two words, political philosophy, and that have become part of the psychology world, the way we talk to each other and the way we put people in power, the way people put people in power. I think it's a great idea when it comes to trying to understand Machiavellianism. Political science, so we have political philosophy and political science. Underneath the social science realm, all of that saying is, I probably should study more sociology in order to understand Machiavellianism. But he wrote a book called The Prince, and basically that laid the groundwork for Machiavellianism. For all you nerds out there who like to read, The Prince.
Well, I didn't know about it either, but it's really interesting. Some of the things that I read from the book, and I'm just some of the notes that I made about the book, because I found it really interesting. Some of the things that he was saying, and how he was trying to implement that in the politics, right? Like you people probably heard this term, the end justifies the means, or the world will harm people, so why not join in? Um, there's another phrase that I wrote here. Since republics become corrupt when people lose the fear that compels them to obey, people must be led back to their original virtue by sensational executions, reminding them of punishment and reviving their fear.
Mhm.
Now, if that doesn't remind you of church, like Inquisition time, and you know what I'm saying, like
yeah.
it's not just politics, because religion, especially Catholic religion, and I'm Catholic, former Catholic.
Mhm.
Uh, they are very influential in the political arena.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
And
that's
you
some,
know,
some of the things that I learned.
speaking of the church, Machiavellian ideology is very godless, and they scheme, and they have this self-interest about them. So it's interesting how that area of life, belief
Yeah.
systems, could take on something like this, especially when the beliefs that Machiavellians have are very cynical in nature. It's a
Mhm.
very interpersonal, cynical attitude with complete emotional detachment. I don't think it's quite social psychopathic. I almost said sociopathic, but that might be what I'm trying to say. Actually, there is a sociopathic element to them because it's all society based. However, unlike the narcissist, they don't seek fame. They don't care about fame.
Right.
Remember, they want power by any means necessary.
I always pick. Well, I'm jumping back and forth, but I
Yeah.
was thinking of who do I know or who do I think about. So, and I was gonna actually I'll reveal that later because it involves wearing a T-shirt from his fictionalized character. So I'll reveal it later.
Mhm.
But yeah, when I hear about Machiavellianism in history, or anyways, Machiavelli will be one of them, I guess, the one that created the whole concept. And he also wrote The Art of War. I also think of another book called The 48 Laws of Power. I don't know if you heard about that.
No, no,
Oh,
I don't think so.
that is a trip, and that should be a recent. I'll look into it right now later. But 48 Laws of Power is how to get into power by manipulating it.
Sorry,
Anyway,
I have heard of it. I haven't read
you
it.
have,
I
yeah.
remember being stunned by the title of the book, stunned by it, thinking, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah.
How
But
to?
when you read the first one, it's like, what? Oh, yeah, this is totally
Yeah,
manipulative. Yeah.
yeah. And this is what we're talking about. I think is a lot of political theory that supports an any means necessary attempt to maintain political power,
Right.
which is interesting because it's all about the people, right? Well, I think it's just a very pessimistic, from what I've read, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, it's a very pessimistic view into human nature, I think, and it's very unethical, I think, opportunistic
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. I think just manipulating the population as a country is scary to me. What type of person could do that?
Hmm. I can think of many. Well,
Yeah.
we said we were not going to get political, but the joke is like, well, hello. The Machiavelli was basically he wasn't a politician, he was a counselor, correct?
Which is funny because Machiavellianism is contributed to him, even though he's Machiavelli. It wasn't him. It's
Right.
like it happened after him. Similar to
Yeah,
how Jesus wasn't Christian.
exactly. That's what I was about to say that.
Now I know some of y'all mad that I said that. I know some of y'all were mad that I said Jesus wasn't Christian. But try not to take that out of context. It's a similar.
Hey, yeah, let's not get there either, because I'm sure Jesus wouldn't be proud of where Catholics have taken his teachings, and not only Catholics, but I'm just saying that's I can pick on them because I used to be a Catholic. But yeah, let's not talk about the other ones, because it's another rabbit hole.
Understood. For some reason, I attract a lot of Catholic men. I don't understand what that means.
I don't know. What does it mean?
That's a different show.
Yeah, for sure. Another episode.
Another episode, yeah.
So what else?
I do want to say too that Machiavellianism could be considered a trait that supports psychopathy and narcissism. I think it's important to mention that we used to have, well, first of all, the Dark Triad is still a relatively new concept within the last 20 or 30 years. It began with psychopathy and then ended with narcissism, period. So the Dark Duad, so to speak. Machiavellianism became very popular because of the 2016 election. Ever since then, people really started to talk about politics again in a, I don't want to say in a negative or positive way, but it became more of a conversation because some things happen we've never seen before on that type of scale. So Machiavellian literally is the child of, why did I do that just now? Does this mean child?
I don't know. That's probably the sign language for such child. I don't know.
For the ASL community, please let me know what I just said and didn't know what I
don't know. We don't know that.
I think if I look at it from a very visual perspective, Machiavellianism is like the child of psychopathy and narcissism, I think.
Yeah. I see them as the puppet masters, the people that are behind, like they're the architects of the whole thing. Like they build it in a way, they build a society in a way where they can control it and they can manipulate everybody. And yeah, it's that's what's happening now. Let's be honest. It's what's happening now with the whole pandemic or pandemic, some people call it.
Wow. People are so creative.
Yeah. And politics in general, like, how to get the war in general is just a whole Machiavellic plan to eliminate a race or eliminate a country or just get oil, or it's just such illogical. It's totally illogical, but that's Machiavellic, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's Machiavellianism is the people's philosophy, folklorish or people lore philosophy. Absolutely. Which I also want to say too, that I think, what do I want to say? I think as far as a personal experience with it goes, I would say that I study a lot of government. I study a lot of criminology and victimology. I think y'all already know psychology, sociology. I study all the ologies. I study a lot of social science. One, but two, we were talking earlier before the show about business. And I think with business, especially the business of the service industry, which is where I got a lot of my start from. I think we have a lot of managers out here who run buildings. I remember a manager telling me, like, this is corporate's idea, but this is my store. And in my store, we're going to do it like this. And I learned real quick from another employee, a supervisor of mine at the time. She said, Joshua, is your name in the lettering of the building? And I said, no, why do you think that? And she said, okay, well, until your name is up there, you have to do what she says, period. I'll never forget that, because she was right. I learned real quick that they didn't pay me to think, they paid me to do. But
right.
They came across with this very, we're a family.
Such bullshit. Well, you know what? In a sense, it's right, because toxic family. Hello.
Yes, and then there's that component as well. If you come from a toxic family, then of course you're going to settle into an environment such as that. And think that something's going to come from that because of the way things are. And I think Machiavellianism is a pure example of that.
Right. Well, I can talk about work when I used to work for the corporate. I'm just going to say it because I don't work there anymore, and I will never will.
Okay.
Knock on wood. But yeah, I was working for Time Warner Cable. Now it's called Spectrum.
Oh.
And the word spectrum to me sounds very villainy as it is, but yeah. Anyways, throughout my years working there, I worked for 25 years. I worked for so many people. Some were great supervisors. I give them to them, but there were a couple that were very, very sneaky about things, and they would do things behind my back, and they would tell people. They will be like they will basically utilize other people to control me, or to be, to spy on what I was doing. I just felt so trapped, and I didn't realize what it was. I knew it was evil. Now I think it's more Machiavellic, or narcissistic, maybe.
Oh.
Where they wanted me to fail without telling me they wanted me to fail. They wanted me to, give up, just basically give up. Like, we don't want you here. So
Yeah.
to get ways to get you fired and to get you in trouble. I had to confront her one time. I'd be like, I don't feel safe with you. And I told her to her face, I don't feel safe with you right now. So let's have a conversation with HR person, because I don't believe a word you're saying right now is true. And then I know what you're trying to, like, I recorded the conversation too. That's one thing I learned from that time. I'm like, record that bit, because that bitch is going to switch your words. So I recorded her. She got really scared after that. She was like, oh shit. He caught on to me. Like, after that, we had our space after that, but I had to like say something, because I'm like, I know what you're doing. I know what this is. You want me to take me aside, get me all riled up, so I can start yelling at you, so you can make that light. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can already see like where this is gonna go. And so it was really stressed. I'm still stressed about it.
You're right. I feel the same way. You're literally, sounds like you're literally coming from a place of trauma, because that's a traumatic experience when somebody is closing in on you.
Yeah.
Closing in on you. I completely relate to that. And I will share with you Ross, TJ Maxx, Marshall's, Home Goods, Dollar Tree. Those 5 places I worked around.
It's my favorite stores.
Your favorite stores? The stores that really flourished since the 2008 recession is discount stores. I always had a saying, discount stores, discount people. And of course, that's something you don't say to your manager of these types of stores. But I got to a point where it's like, okay, there's the people, and then there's us. There's the management team.
Yeah.
We're here for them. However, we don't know what we're doing here, do we? I didn't know what I was doing. I was still very new to this whole thing. But to go with the similar story that you told, same thing. They do this thing where they pull people in office and they berate you, and then it's a done deal. You don't have a side to the story, because that's just that.
Yeah. Who are they going to believe? You? No. Because and I had a history of having mental breakdowns at work. I was the one that was always, taking sick leaves and stuff like that. So I already had a history. Again, this is the plan, right? Let's get him to be. Let's pull the stuff that he already showed. Let's look at that. Let's look at the calls that were not wonderful. Sometimes I just fail on my sales calls. I was not a good seller, because I was more customer servicey. I wasn't really a salesperson. So when I wasn't a salesperson, I was always in trouble, and I was always almost getting fired for not overselling or top selling, as they call it. The whole thing was just so, to
You're
me.
not a psychopath.
Oh my God. I was like, you mean I have to like sell them everything if they just want to have basic cable, and I have to sell them internet, phone service, alarm system in one call? You want me to do that in one call?
Mhm.
Oh my Lord. Like the pressure was like intense before I even got the first call. I'm like,
It is. It is. They're wanting you to bombard people with what they should be doing with their life. I
yeah,
remember becoming very good at getting people credit cards at TJ Maxx. Very good. And there in the front end, they actually say, Joshua, how many did you get today? I'll say, yeah, he got 5. I'm thinking all these people around and
I hate when they do that. I hate
what?
when they're like, oh, so and so got a sale. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's so triggering.
And I got really messy, and I would always say, so are we gonna have a pizza party now? You know, little things. How many stars do I get? Like, do I get a cookie? I'm doing this for a cookie.
It's funny because that's what they do. They brought food and they brought the most fattening stuff and cupcakes and fuck
You know,
stupid.
I still have a love-hate relationship with Subway because of that. If I see another bread with mayonnaise on top of it, I'm gonna literally
Right.
lose everything. I'm not a mayo person anyway, but I mean, like when I saw people like mechanically walk to the back room and eat the same thing for 2 years, it's like, oh my God, is this it? We do
Yeah.
good and we get a pizza, not a pizza party, which is what I prefer, but Little Caesars every 2 months,
Yeah.
it's time to care for people again. So somebody order 18 Little Caesars pizzas.
And God forbid you say no.
Right, right. It's like this pink. Have you seen The Wall from Pink Floyd?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like that. That's the vibe I felt. If you've seen that movie,
That's a trippy movie, guys. Yeah. Oh my God. I love the movie, but yeah.
mhm.
Anyway, I always get that part where the children are walking to the meat grinder.
Yeah, that's
Like
what
what the fuck's going on in this
I,
movie? That
I think that during that part, the song called "Welcome to the Machine" was playing. So absolutely, yeah, and that's what this is. And I think that's what Machiavellianism stands for. Welcome to the machine.
right. Not only, but and the song is about education too. You know how they say, the children were saying, "Hey, teachers, leave them kids alone,"
Yeah,
because that's not education, right? They're they're basically formatting them to be machine-like soldiers, like robots, like politicians. You know what I mean? Like that whole thing was just so disturbing to me. I was fascinated by The Wall or Pink Floyd in general, but yeah, that piece is like, oof, this is hard to
yeah,
watch.
yeah. It's very difficult to watch. I think, especially if you're a highly empathetic person who's aware of the struggle of people in general. I always
Right.
say be empathetic for yourself before anybody else, but sometimes it works the other way around. If you have so much for other people, why not give it to yourself? And you know that's a whole other pathology. But yeah, definitely. I think and that if you're ready to discuss how to confront a Machiavellian person, I can
Mhm.
tell you that. Speaking of
Okay.
empathy, engage in self-care. Basically, that's one way.
Yeah.
Engage
Be
in
be
self-care.
beware observant, right?
Yeah, yeah. Accept your limitations
Mhm.
because there's only so far a real human person can go. These dark triad people are almost monstrous. Well, they are monsters. It's monstrous in the sense because they have this ability to not stop. They're a force of nature.
Mm. Right.
And
Yeah.
when you, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I just want to say, and when I think when we engage in a sort of self-compassion in understanding we have limitations, I think that would help further the process of saying, I'm okay. They're doing what they're doing. I'm here. I'm fine. I will get through this. And hopefully you have somebody trusted that you can tell to further ally and continue to help the reality, your reality,
Mhm.
their reality, that there's a monster in the building. Like you said earlier about having to record the conversation. Dr. Romney always says, if you have to record the conversation, you need to figure out how to get the hell out of there because now they're gaslighting you and you have to have proof
Yeah. Not only that, but I had to save emails too. I had to save emails, and you know how they have the AIM, or I don't know what they call it, you know, the inner instant messenger, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
But I had to like copy and paste it because I'm like, this is important right here because she's doing it outside the email, which she thinks that I'm not able to take a picture and put it in my, you know, on my phone, or like I had to be really creative. Every day was like another challenge. I'm like, how am I gonna get this bitch
That's
to
right.
say this in a text or to say this in email? And I will purposely do it. I had to become. You kind of have to become like them, in the sense that you have to be manipulative to get the
Mhm.
information you need, or to get them to talk to you, to basically to dig your own hole. Is what I call it. It's like, keep going, keep telling me, because when I recorded her, I let her talk for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, what else? Okay. I was like really I when I get upset, I start getting, you know, really agitated, and my heart palpitations, and I kind of get like a panic attack of sorts.
Mhm.
Um and yeah, when I exploded, she was like, ooh, wait a minute. I was not expecting that from you because you're so quiet and you're not talking and you don't participate in the activities of the group and blah 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 bullshit.
Ooh, you're not as easy to manipulate as I originally thought. Look at you. You're human. Yeah, you're human. And being a human means you have a sympathetic nervous system. So it's
Yeah.
good that you've experienced all that because fight, flight, freeze, or
Mhm.
fawn was kicking in
All
when
of them.
you were tired of her BS. Period. And I think that when you
Mhm.
do that, when all that kicks in, what I've done in the past is I've decided to engage with my, as I like to call it, my mastery mindset, just because it's like, okay, I can master myself in this situation because you have to. And,
Mhm.
and like you did, continue to focus on those Machiavellian actions that they're doing. And that's exactly what you did. Okay. And then like to also keep it work based, to keep the conversation at work. Like you
Oh yeah.
talk about. And you did that by letting her continue to talk about the work.
Mhm.
Okay. And you didn't try to outplay her. So
Yeah.
you're playing defense with a Machiavellian because
Already.
they're already out there. You're not dealing with an individual. You're dealing with somebody who wants control of everybody.
Yeah, and then she had everybody in the office basically pick at me. Everybody, even my best friend was picking
Hmm.
on me. Sometimes I'm like, why are you asking me about the report? You, especially, since we're talking about, you know, we're we're best buddies outside of work,
Hmm.
and but here you're asking me about my report.
Hmm.
What is that? Like, my antennas were so on at that point. I'm like,
Yeah.
who's asking you this information? Is
Right.
this what's her name?
Right.
And she didn't respond. I'm like, yeah, I know who is okay. Yeah, you can even tell when somebody else, like a fly monkey, is talking for somebody else on
That's
their
right.
behalf.
That's right. How much money did you get paid? Did you get some hours on your week? Not
Oh
you.
yeah, she got brownie points. She only got brownie points for that
Yeah.
because
Oh,
of this.
wow. A tip. She got tips.
Yeah,
Wow. And that's how it is, the promotion game in the business world of the service industry. And
yeah,
let me not knock it. I love that. I love the business world. I love the service industry. I think it's great. I've learned that as an individual, they cannot be outplayed. I think there's a right way to do things. There's a wrong way to do things. And I think yeah, I think it could get dangerous if you're not prepared.
yeah. You have to navigate. You have to know how to navigate. Play their game, basically, is what it is, right? Play like
Uh,
any.
yes, yes. Give when you say play their game, know the game. Yes, give them like you did. Give them a little supply here and there because they're going to know that you're different.
Mhm.
just like a dog, just like any animal, with sense of change in who you are. And I think that's what has helped me. Once I realized I didn't care about being promoted anymore, give me, like when I worked at Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree is my last retail experience. I decided, hey, I'll cashier, whatever. However, give me what was my position? A recovery. Recovery position is just a sweet way of saying janitor. I became I called it my Bruce Almighty experience, just because I didn't care anymore about it. It wasn't important to me. What was important to me was making sure the customer came in and left happy. They may not have came in happy, but they left knowing that they got what they wanted, or at least they knew where to get it if they didn't get it from there. That was the goal. Morale, ethics, things like that. That's what's important. And some businesses don't have that.
Well, it's funny because they call it customer service, right? And they're customer focused, supposed to be customer focused, but all the while, the customer is never the focus. Like,
never.
It's such a hypocritical term.
It is. And I also want to say the customer is not always right.
Well, you never want to say that.
I said it numerous times, and I said it because the customer is always right. That is a marketing tool for customers to act a fool. It's a catch-22. And I would always tell these places, the customer's not always right, and I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, you were not a good employee, I can tell.
Well, if that makes me a bad employee, I'm a bad employee.
I'm being sarcastic, to be honest. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm willing to say I was a bad employee. I am, because I'm human.
Yeah.
And when you have a human employee, that will ruffle some feathers when you're working for a mechanical, robotic management team. I used to carry a clipboard around with me that kept the store rules in it. And people would literally complain on me, my coworkers, and then the customers would complain because, hey, returns, you can't get a store return. It's been over 90 days. It's damaged. It's worn in.
Right.
I can offer you an in-store credit. And sometimes people who've shopped there, they don't want to hear that because they know that items get marked down 3 or 4 times.
Sorry. That's my alarm.
You okay? Oh, okay. Okay. I thought I unlocked a mechanical meltdown somewhere, and now.
All right.
Okay.
It's the Machiavelli spirit.
Did we bring him back?
Oh, hell no.
Okay.
Well,
I hope to be joking on that one.
I think it's already here. His spirit, the Machiavellic spirit.
Right. You got that right. Yeah.
No, it's fun to talk about it because it's yeah, and you try to explain this to people that are not working in the office or whatever, and they don't see the big deals. Like, you're sitting down on the phone, like air conditioning, like, what is the problem? Like, you have it all, your suit and tie, and hey, they feed you every day or every other day, or birthday here and there, and birthday cards, and they give you prices, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand what they're doing to me. And some people actually drop almost dead. They actually had heart attacks at work.
Yes.
And then they don't even call 911. Sometimes they're like, oh, what happened? Or they're like, oh, I feel chest pains. It's like, okay, we'll take a break.
Take a 15.
Make sure you come back. Make sure you come lunch.
Right. Have you taken your lunch yet? Go on lunch. I'll cover all that stuff. If you've been in retail, everybody, this is the way they talk.
Priceless.
Then you go to this big room with fluorescent lighting and a punch-out clock. It takes 5 minutes to get back there. So that's half your lunch right there. It takes 5 minutes to heat up your food. If you work at Dollar Tree, you only get a 10, 15-minute break anyway. Half of that break is considered you trying to start the break. Crazy, because they treat people like machines. And I think Machiavellian people treat people like machines. They use people as tools to get what they want. Power, profit, and pleasure. The same thing a psychopath wants. The same thing that a narcissist tries to get through deep, deep manipulation styles. The narcissist, which is where I started with all of this, I think is the puppet master, if you will, that can do some damage.
You mean the Machiavellic?
Oh, well, I mean that too. The narcissist, yeah. Well, and that's the thing about Machiavellianism. It was considered just a trait of psychopathy and narcissist, but now it's its own thing.
Right.
However, it can still fall back there, and that's what's interesting about this whole thing to me. That's why it's difficult for me to say anything, because we have literally a newborn abnormal personality, a baby,
like a subcategory. I know what you're saying. It's like you can't. It's really hard to tell the difference sometimes, because it's like, is that psychopathic? Is that Machiavellic? Is that narcissistic? Is that this? It's, it's really hard. But yeah, and then we're gonna break in a minute because we got a couple minutes left. But if you can think about one thing, I believe one thing you have to remember is it came from politics.
Yes.
Even if you're not a political person, it came from that. That was the origin of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you think about that, regardless of what political party you might be, there's plenty of examples of Machiavellic people out there.
And political philosophy also. I mean, it's not enough to say, well, I'm not political. Well, you like to talk, and that's what philosophy, you like to think, that's what philosophy is. So political philosophy, when people say they're not into politics, it's interesting, because we are political animals. That's what Aristotle said.
Mm-hmm. And if you stand for human rights and for Black Lives Matter or anything like that, that's political.
That's right.
Even the vaccine is political, and education is political, and
Yeah, I really love what the ladies have done with the Me Too movement and the Time Is Up movement. That right there is how you do it.
Yeah, that's how you get noticed. But we're gonna take a little break, guys. It's a great end to the first part, but we got more we can talk about. So stay tuned. All right, guys, we're on part 2, and the revelation is I'm wearing the Darth Vader t-shirt that reads, "I find your lack of strength disturbing," which is very Machiavellic of him to say. But interestingly enough, if you're a Star Wars fan, or if you're a Star Wars nerd, or whatever they call them, you would realize that he wasn't really the puppet master. The puppet master was Palpatine. I think that's his name. The evil, older, wiser, and more Machiavellic person was really the one that was controlling him, because he wasn't evil to begin with, right? If you go back to the beginning, how he grew up, he had a special ability, right? Which is called the Force, which is another interpretation of spirituality. But I think they use that to make him become what he became in part 4. That's what I think. That's interesting. He wasn't as evil to begin with. He became one, right?
Yeah. And I'm still very new to Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
However, it's good. It's good. I've seen. My next movie is the 9th one. I need to see the 9th one. But from what I've seen and from what I've understood, I remember trying to explain. My nephew. I have a nephew. He said to me, "Why did Anakin go evil? What's good? What's evil?" Okay, I had this 3-year-old ask me the difference between good and evil.
Yeah, that's a good way to start.
That was a 2-hour conversation.
Great. A 3-year-old? Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I think he understood. he has a better understanding now, I think, of the differences. But going back to your point, absolutely. And that's what's interesting about it. A human, there are three things I like to talk about when it comes to these things. We're born this way, we lack humanity, or we're human. That's that. And I think the best place to be is to be human, obviously, but if we lack these qualities, we can learn them. It just takes effort, time, willpower to do these things individually.
Right. Because you have the capacity of doing evil as you're capable of doing good. You have both.
That's right.
So choose one, because you can be either or. Or maybe you are either, I don't know.
You're right. I think when we lack humanity, we have a very slim chance that we can go evil. I think the more human we are, the more we realize that we're in this together. We're individuals who decide that we can work together, things like that. Yet that evil element, what is that? The absence of light, the absence of good. I mean,
right.
I remember that Star Wars test actually that was online for a little bit. I think it was on Facebook.
Oh.
Meta. I think it was, you have to, it was some game where you chose, were you on the light side or dark side? I had a friend that actually chose the dark side, and he was surprised that I didn't. And I said to him, well, how do you know I haven't already chosen the dark side?
I love the villains, and if they had me pick a villain,
yeah.
Anyways, side note, I wrote a monologues about the Wizard of Oz characters.
Ooh.
And my favorite one was none other than the Wicked Witch of the West.
Wow.
She had me rolling because she was hilarious, first of all. She would tell Dorothy flat out, like, I know what you're doing, bitch. Maybe you're a sorcerer too. You're a sorceress yourself. You have magic. You just don't know it. But hey, I know what you're doing. But she had no what do you say? We in Spanish we say no tenemos pelos en la lengua. We don't have any filter. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So she had no filters, and I'm like, I love her because she told you what like it is. Like if you imagine a movie like The Devil Wears Prada, it's another example. Like she had no remorse about making her feel like she was nothing.
So she was psychopathic.
Totally. she enjoyed making her suffer, which makes her Machiavellic, because she really enjoyed making Dorothy and her friends suffer. Mm-hmm. So in reality, she was more Machiavellic, right?
Yeah, she definitely had that trait. And it's from what you're saying, it sounds like she embodied that personality type as well. Yeah.
Right.
She knew what she was doing on a collective level, like around what people were going to, well, Oompa Loompas, was it? I think the people.
No. You're mixing it up with Willy Wonka.
Oh,
that's cool.
Wow. Sorry, I should know this. I'm sorry, everybody. I need to know this. I should have.
Anyways, you had no preparation for this question, so that's okay. No, the Oompa Loompas were the green little man from Chocolate Factory.
Why am I thinking about them?
I don't know.
No.
What she had was the flying monkeys, the Wicked Witch.
Yes. If so, is that your character from The Wizard of Oz? Okay. Yeah. I like the Tin Man myself.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I have probably a cognitive dissonance between the Tin Man and the Scarecrow.
Well, my favorite one when I wrote them, besides the Wicked Witch, the hardest one was the Tin Man. But I'll tell you that story afterward, because it's really interesting. Because if you read the novel, you realize that he suffered so much. He cut himself in pieces because the witch had him cut himself off with his own axe.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So when I wrote it, I actually was thinking about my own breakup at the time.
Wow.
And it was like heartbreaking, dude. It was like, if this piece is not masterpiece, I mean, I thought The Wicked Witch was good, but the last one I had to write was The Tin Man.
Mm-hmm.
And for a reason, I had to go through all that ordeal to get to him because he was like the last one. Anyway, that's a
Wow.
different story. Once upon a time.
Touching.
Yeah. And he was broken, right? Basically, he was broken.
Yeah.
But he was being manipulated by the Wicked Witch because she was the one that she had him cut himself off in pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but going back to Machiavellianism, I was telling you about the word politics because this term again comes from politics or a political figure, right, from the 1500s. But I was thinking, I'm like, besides politics, which is we already know about the politicians, but think about the politics in the work environment or the politics in the family environment or the family unit, even nonprofit organizations. They have politics in them. Like it can be like the most benevolent looking organizations, but inside of them, there's politics.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to start off studying and understanding Machiavellianism. Is understanding that politics, look at that word, it's what we do every day. Politics is when you sit with your mom, your grandma at the kitchen table and talk about your life.
Yeah.
When
and what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be doing, where you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a this, you're going to marry somebody, when you're going to marry one. And
because when our opinions get brought into the conversation, boom, politics, it gets political immediately. And listen, it's not like necessarily you have to be professional to have a political conversation. I want people to understand that you don't have to be a professional. You don't have to have a certification to speak your mind. In my own solo work, I want people to know that you have a voice inside of you that deserves to be heard. You have rights, you have human rights. Before any rights, you are a human. If you can hear that statement, you are human. If you cannot hear that, that's almost irrelevant because people who cannot hear that are not human. And I think we've done enough of this to where I think people should know who I'm talking about when it comes to that. Monsters have no humanity. They don't care about your inner voice.
Mm-hmm. Who are you talking about? I'm sorry. I lost.
Oh, yeah, I got really in the zone on that one.
I wasn't following.
Who was I talking? I'm talking really honestly. I'm talking to the person listening right now who, like we used to say, you and I used to say that, oh, I'm not a political person. Yeah, we are. We are political animals, as Aristotle said. When you have an opinion, you are political, and you don't have to be professional to have an opinion. And I want everybody to remember that. If you already know that, good. I want people who didn't know that to go through life now knowing that their voice matters.
Yeah.
That's why I study victimology so much. I'm an advocate for victims because victims are people who have been hurt, who have trauma, who don't know how to speak up. Mm-hmm. I want to be a mouthpiece for people who are learning how to speak up for themselves.
There's a documentary that's pretty interesting too. You have me thinking about, it's called Pride, which is basically derives from gay pride. Mm-hmm. But it's really interesting how they went into the history of how as gay people. It was criminalized, right, to be gay and to be in bars and to seek out other men, especially gay men.
Mhm.
And
Pathologized.
so,
We were also pathologized.
oh yeah, until the 80s
1971.
or 70s. Okay. Um,
1971. We were
yeah,
we were in the DSM as a mental illness. We were considered criminal. We were considered a sin. And we were still considered all these things, depending on who you talk to. Being a queer person was equated to being a deviant. It's not true.
yeah.
But that's a whole nother show also,
I
right?
know. I'm jumping back and forth here, but all I wanted to say is that
Yeah.
speaking your truth or speaking out for yourself. We had to fight. We still are fighting the fight. Like if you want to have the same rights to get married to your loved one, who might be of the same gender, or if you want to have equal opportunity to be hired, and if you're transgender, that's unheard of. Or if you want to be in the military, hello,
Mhm.
don't ask, don't tell. It's like, like we have to still fight. Like the fight is never ending.
And fighting doesn't have to be violent. Fighting could
No.
be this podcast. The fact that we're talking about things that are considered taboo is a form of resistance. It's a form of putting into the light all these dark things. I've always been an explorer. Here's my flashlight or candle. I have both just in case one runs out, and I will go to the dark spot and then go back to people who don't know any of this stuff and say, hey, did you know this is going on? You might be a part of this. This podcast is pure evidence of
True.
us trying to bring light to dark situations and do something about it.
Yeah, because the power of the word that I was saying this before.
Yeah.
The war are created by words you're speaking. Like Hitler could have spoke that into reality, into existence. War. Let's fight the Jews and let's kill them all, and then you're the superior race and stuff. So wars can create war, but Maya always says, but they can always end the wars. So you can declare war with words, and you can make them, and you can just, what I'm saying, like you can do both.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Ideologies.
The famous phrase, pick your battles. I battle all the time. Now, if I go to war, it's time to take cover.
Yeah.
And I'm very confrontational. I'm not opposed to having a conversation with somebody about my difference of opinion. And that's another thing I like to do too, is I was telling one of my good friends this the other day about how I think and how I act. There's what you want, there's what I want, and then there's our compromise. How we're going to work together if neither one of us get what we want, or if we both want something and we can find a way to work together. My point is, the third alternative is, what are we going to do with what we want and what we don't want, equally or unequally? We have to do something together. And I think if society did that, we would have a better, or I would say leaning towards a better existence with each other. I'm not a 100% person. I'm an 80-20 person. I'm not looking to end things. I'm looking to land on the brighter side of things. For example, we all have the dark triad in us somewhere. I recommend we keep it at 20% and lean 2/3 towards the light.
Yeah.
I really recommend that. I have a very bleak way of looking at the world anyway. I see this all getting with social media. I see this all getting worse, which is why I'm talking to you. That's why I'm talking to you about this, because I think this is something that needs to get out. But anyway, I just think that we as a people should try to work together and compromise. Even if you don't get what you want, compromise for the greater good.
Yep.
And what is the greater good? That's the question. That's the political statement. What is the greater good for all of us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I have a thing about the pandemic too, and having to wear a mask and taking the vax, and I can say vax here because it's my channel, but
Absolutely.
I see such manipulation in the world. Like, this is crazy. This is the craziest time I've ever seen in my adult life, where I've seen how people are divided by the stupid vaccine. Whether you want to take it or not, that's your body, that's your choice. But don't come to my car and ask me to wear this kind of mask because you're not feel comfortable with me having this paper mask, and meanwhile you're taking your own mask. I'm like, you know what? But I have, and like you say, you have to know when to have your percentage, right? Sometimes I have to look for my. Let me pick one out of this file because this is bullshit right here. When you feel like you're being attacked, you're personally being attacked for something you believe, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, whether it's my opinion.
We're going to have a difference of opinion. People need to know that. That doesn't mean I'm going to chop your head off. It just means that we're different. Okay, have a nice day. See you later, whatever the case may be. I'll talk to you tomorrow when I clock in. We don't have to like or share opinions that are similar.
Oh.
What's with people? What has happened to where it's like, oh, you don't agree with me? Well, you have to die. Where did that come from?
Yeah, and that's true in the metaverse. That's when it happened.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Black Box, or what's it called? Black Mirror, that episode. I don't know if you've seen it.
Mirror. Oh yeah. Oh, the Twilight Zone of this generation. Yes.
That particular scene where she's losing her followers and she loses her attention span, and everybody sees her personality offline as totally opposite of what you are on virtually. It's just an interesting show, guys. That one episode with what's her name? Ron Howard's daughter. I forget her name, but anyhow, that's one episode where it's about social media. In other words,
the redhead. I remember her.
Yeah, Bryce.
Yes.
Dallas Bryce, something like that. Or Houston. I don't know. I get mixed up right now.
I was looking at my Uber score the other day and thinking to myself, why do I care about this? It takes me back to that episode. I recently was kicked out the Uber Tuesday or Wednesday this last week. And I'll quickly say why. Because it got political. That's why.
Okay.
And it got political in a religious way. My dad, his original plan to name me was Muhammad. My mom named me, well, that was his plan. My mom didn't want that, being raised Christian. So my dad was Muslim, my mom was Christian. They both raised completely different. And their compromise, speaking of my compromise system, was to name me Joshua. He agreed to that just because of the association with monotheistic belief systems and whatnot. But I was always interested in how they came up with that compromise. Meanwhile, I'm telling this to the Uber driver, who I think was 100% Muslim, Orthodox. He wasn't happy with me, and he literally kicked me out. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a construction site at 2 a.m, but okay, I'll deal. I'll deal with it. I was hurt. I was hurt by it because of how swift he was to get rid of me.
I'm sure you rated him a 1 because that's.
Yeah, I did.
That's a complaint right there. As a Lyft driver myself, I've got into discussions with people.
Yes.
And I almost on a daily basis now, where I'm like, okay, you know what? I'd rather just shut the fuck up throughout the ride, not even speak. I don't even speak anymore. I'm waiting until they say something, because I always get into discussions that I don't want to get into, because I'm always taking people to the airport, and then that translates to, did you get a vaccine? And that translates into, did you get a vaccine? And you know what? At that point, I'm like, okay, I bet I'm not gonna discuss my choice and my body and my health with you. It gets very heated, but I would never think of throwing anybody out for disagreeing with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and based on the conversations we've been having, I think it's pretty evident that if a person is willing to throw you out on the side of the road in the middle of the morning, or excuse me, middle of the night in an abandoned area,
Wow.
that's what they think about you.
Crazy.
So,
Dude.
yeah. And people, make sure you keep battery life on your cell phone in case that happens to you too. Just be aware that a lot of conversations are trigger moments for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. It doesn't matter if you're a good person. You may be in the car with a monster.
You could have been, yeah, that's true. It's better that you get off anyways.
Monsters can drive cars. Monsters can drive cars. Go watch all the Halloween movies. Michael Myers knows how to drive, okay? So
yeah. Remember the movie Duel?
I do, yeah.
That's the scariest movie because you didn't see the guy or girl. You never know.
That's
you
true.
just saw the car coming at you.
Christine, Maximum Overdrive, that short film segment in that 1983 movie Nightmares, where there's this big monster truck going after this ex-priest. Amazing stuff. What does this have to do with my point?
I don't know.
I just realized that monster.
No, you were saying about having your cell phone charged because you may be in cases where.
Oh, yes. It's a little. I used to be homeless for X amount of time, and I remember just thinking to myself, always have my phone charger with me in case I pop up at a coffee shop or something and sit down and that's another Machiavellian thing. I had to tell myself, okay, be normal, whatever that means. Be normal. Be normal. And I'm pulling my hair back behind my ears, by the way. Be normal. What does be normal mean? Well, don't act a fool. Smell good. Have manners. Be a functioning member of society, even though you have no place to live. That's what does that mean?
I don't think that's Machiavellic though.
I hope
survival.
not.
That's survival.
Survival?
I think so.
Okay, I think you might be right.
Because you're not really manipulating anybody into, doing something bad for the humanity or for, you're not really doing that. So I think that was more survival. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Survival. Right. The animalistic attitude of I gotta live and this is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I gotta eat. I gotta eat and seek shelter, so I'll do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's survival.
And I'll be talking about on probably my own channel at some point the details in regards to that story, that part of my life.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't homeless myself, but I was a nomad, which is probably close to being homeless.
Similar. I mean, if you have shelter.
I had shelter. It's just that it didn't last very long. I knew that growing up with this mother I had, she was very unpredictable, and she depended on others a lot.
Yeah.
Including me, but she put me in a lot of dangerous situations. And that's all I have to say about that. Honestly, I'm really tired of talking about her, really, to be honest. But
it really does circle back to the way we were raised and how we grew up. Because I like to say there's two things here: how we're raised and how we grow. Our families raise us, and we individually grow and mature.
Yeah. Live and die.
We're born and raised by these people who brought us into this world. I like to keep it different because like I said, you have a right, people, you have a human right, you have an individual right, you have an independent right to be who you are. Your DNA is the most unique in the world. That's
interesting that, you have a human right. You have a human right to have food, shelter, clothes to wear, and education, and health. I think,
and an opinion. I think that right there is the final frontier of human connection. You have the right to think for yourself. That doesn't mean yell fire at the theater, because you can, but you need to know that you can do that. You have a choice, but choose not to, because you know the replications. You know the repercussion of what could happen from that.
Mhm.
I think being human is knowing that you have a power to choose.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned. I think that was the one thing becoming a man, that's what I learned. I have a choice to have nothing or have something. It's no longer my parents' fault. After 18, it has nothing to, I have nothing to do with them after that.
Right.
So now I need to handle my shit and put the shit I thought was my fault back where it came from, and be trying not to become Machiavellian at the same time.
Yeah, because it's a fine line. It's a really fine line between the triad, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, psychopathy, narcissism, if they had a child, it would be Machiavellianism.
Right. And we can spend hours talking about these topics, but I want to keep it a little bit shorter this time, because we're going to be going into what is it, sadism next time, the next episode.
Yeah. Get your wine, get your libation, get your, whatever you need to relax. So that's going to be
get your whips.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I'm kidding, guys. Well, maybe
Get
not.
your poppers. Well, maybe we need to put it. Maybe you need to say a disclaimer now. That's at the end of this.
Oh yeah, I have to do that. By the way, this might be triggering.
Might be triggering. Yes. I almost said I'm all about poppers. I'm not all about poppers. I never have had them before, but it's part of the queer community, particularly men. Just be educated and be ready.
Yeah, when you go to when I used to work in one of those places where they sell video head cleaners. Mm-hmm. So if you ever come to them and say, I want poppers, they will never give you the popper, or they will never give it to you, because if you say the word popper, that is legally illegal to say. Ooh. You have to say specifically a video head cleaner for VCR tapes, which nobody's using anymore. I don't even know who was ever using it for the real purpose of the popper was for the VHS tapes.
Clean you out.
Yeah, but nobody's gonna use it for that. But anyway, that's just a little tip for you guys.
A little preview to the next episode.
Yeah, because sadism, I don't know where that came from.
There's a level of sadistic nature that ties in all three. I can't wait to tell you all that. We will bring it full circle. And since this is technically the last component of the Dark Triad, they're a trio, and this is it. It was within the last few years, and I'll discuss this next time, but within the last few years that sadism has been brought into it, making it a dark triad, or a dark tetrad at this point. So we'll go further with that next time.
Yeah, and I have to look into I have to do the research too, because ever since I met Joshua, I'm learning all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, I know about sadism, but Machiavellianism and the Dark Triad and the Light Triad and the other triad, and yeah, there's a lot that I don't know, and I'll be honest, I don't even know how we're gonna talk about that topic next week, or whenever we do it. I'll figure it out, but I'm always open to learning.
I've had a lot of friends interested in BDSM culture, so we will get there. We'll get there. I also want to say too, in ending this series about the Dark Triad, another triad is the vulnerable triad, where you have secondary psychopathy, borderline personality disorder, and sociopathy. Sociopathy. I think sociopathy, that's how we say it. It's basically a deeper, more hidden, secret version of the Dark Triad. If you didn't think this monster was bad, check out the vulnerable Dark Triad.
I'll need a drink for that one.
Yeah.
Hopefully we do this before the end of the year.
Mhm.
So I'll keep you guys updated because I'm thinking of reinventing the podcast, just so you know, guys, whoever's listening. But I won't reveal it until 2022, which is coming around the corner, I guess. Now that we're
here
talking about resolutions. So, but hey, guys, thanks for listening. Hopefully, we've covered a little bit. I don't think we covered a lot of what we should have discussed. We were talking about work, but that had to do something with it, I guess. But yeah.
Can I say a few more things?
Yeah.
Okay. As we did with the last two episodes, I want to talk about what to do after you've had this confrontation with yourself. It's the same as it goes with dealing with a psychopath and dealing with a narcissistic person. Just remember there's a difference between, last time I said there's a difference between empathy and understanding. I want to say now, since we've done this episode, that there's two types of empathy, specifically that I've learned, hot and cold. Cold empathy is when you understand. Hot empathy is more of an emotional take on empathy. I want you all to know the differences between the two and act accordingly after you deal with such a traumatic person, a person who can cause trauma in you. Keep yourself educated, stay constantly researching this stuff. You don't have to go to therapy. I recommend it, but if you cannot afford it or if you cannot go for some reason, definitely keep in mind that you must be aware of the signs if you're to avoid a future relationship going down this path, okay? The people who have these abnormal personality traits are not going to get therapy. They're not going to help themselves. They will continue to do what they're here to do. So if you're aware of this, you need to get help for yourself, friends, support, hopefully your employers. After everything we talked about today, I hope that you have a team of employers that care for your well-being. And if you're alone, like I always say, this is an inside job. If you're alone, be prepared for anything and get the hell out of there. These relationships do not change. They don't change. And if you're not careful, they will change you. And you will lack the humanity that you need to continue to live a fulfilled life, of understanding that these monsters do exist and they are real. Remember to seek help also. Lastly, hotlines, local medical authorities, call the police immediately if you need them, and make sure you have an escape plan. And that looks different for everybody. So just be sure you take care of yourself. And self-care is not selfish. So be sure to take care of yourself. Put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on somebody else. That's what RuPaul says.
Right. If you don't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else?
Amen.
Amen. And with that, guys, I have to wrap it up because I don't want to pay for Zoom. I'm cheap. I'm very cheap. Machiavellian.
Yes.
But thank you for listening, guys. Drop your comments, follow, like, subscribe. And thank you, Joshua, for coming. And we got less than 1 minute, so bye.
Bye.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Hit the record button.
That's swell.
Italo, Blog Talk Radio.